Yes, my friends, welcome back. I'm doing things a bit differently with the preview today, as I'll be focusing a lot more on the predicted lineup part, as we found out some pretty bad news surrounding the potential shortage of strikers against Brighton tomorrow evening. Now, we've learned that Marc Guiu is set to miss the next few weeks, even more than a month out with injury, and we're learning that Nico Jackson could be a serious doubt for the game tomorrow night because he still needs recovery. And I think we have to remember, we're literally playing against Brighton next week again, 8 p.m. kickoff. So I'd rather keep Nico available for that game. So what do we do? And I felt like it's more interesting to focus on the predicted lineups because I think there's three potential solutions we can use with what we have in this squad right now. But I have to say this, my friends, but we are paying the consequences for a terrible January window. When I say terrible, I never wanted us to sign ridiculous signings in January. I'm kind of exhausted with that already. I've been calling out for smart, short-term relief to enhance and help what we have in this squad. If I was a director, there's two signings I'm making. I'm either looking at Paulinho on loan, because if Nkunku had agreed terms with Bayern Munich and wanted to go there, instead of wasting our time on Tell, maybe we should have decided to go for Paulinho, who is really struggling to make sense in the pivot system in Kompany's Bayern team and isn't really playing as much recently. Imagine you had Paulinho, his Prem experience, his leadership. He was like a top 3 DM in this country. You might even do crazy things like be able to use Caicedo as a box-to-box midfield player when you have someone like this at the back. And the other signing I would have made, actually it's two. It would have been Kolo Muani on loan. I can't believe that Juventus were able to sign him on loan ahead of us when they already have Vlahovic and when the striker position was more pressing for our needs. And if not him, Mateta, a big Prem experienced target man that offers us something completely different, who has 1 year left on his existing deal. I just felt like if we didn't waste our time looking for the next best opportunity, the next best wonder kid, where throughout the entirety of this window, we were looking at wingers again for some reason, and we made bids for like 3 wingers, made attempts at Garnacho, the Yerome from Deportivo, until it's not focused. And when it's not focused, how do you help the manager? How do you help the squad? How do you help our needs right now? And seeing injuries in this team at the moment, the squad's looking very thin. And it makes you wonder, could we see some surprise debuts for youth talents? Could Anselmino get an opportunity? Let's see. Could our new signing in Amugu be forced into contention now to get some minutes? This is a kid who was only making his, breakthrough season with Saint Etienne this season. He wasn't playing week in, week out. Outside of his final game being a start, he didn't start the last 4 or 5 games and he was getting sub minutes. He's not been playing regularly for me to have any unrealistic expectations that he comes here and he adds a new level of quality to this team. He's only here out of circumstances because he'll be going to Strasbourg to replace Andre Santos, and this is a future-proof move. So we're looking quite thin right now. But again, being at this football club and fans with our expectations, I hope Maresca can find creative solutions to help and use what we have in this team, because after seeing how we ended that game against West Ham, if the players can give something for Maresca to work with, I have some confidence that Maresca's game management, his ability to bring on subs, change the formations up, bring on the wing-backs, there could be enough to hopefully seal some of these wins as players come back to fitness. So let's see what happens there. But my friends, that's enough of the intro. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions, and let's get into discussing this match preview for tomorrow. For the press conference, I'm going to be very brief and to the point. As we already know, Marc Guiu is not available tomorrow. He could be out for over a month. Nico Jackson is a serious doubt, and I'd imagine that Maresca doesn't want to force him already. So again, it's a bit of an L that we're dealing with to begin with. But to move on, Maresca then bigs up Nkunku, which he has to do right now because he's the only guy that can possibly play up front. And I can't imagine we cancel Washington's loan to Santos, use him for like 1 game. Could be used some PL2 strikers like McNeely, DeJohn Richards. Are there options we turn to? Who even knows? But I wouldn't really expect that to be the case, to be fair with you. But again, it's not a great position we find ourselves in. But again, to end with things, I want to share my observations on this. But, I'm getting a bit bored with Maresca's press conferences, but let me explain why I'm bored. Now, I completely understand the corporate game Maresca finds himself in. He was hired as the head coach. He's not the manager. And to be able to have more of a voice, to have more leverage, you need to have some success under your belt. But most importantly, you have to last here for at least the first season. Because with this club, if we don't get CL, which Maresca's saying, he wasn't hired to bring in CL. Listen, I'll tell you guys this from everything I know. CL is key and it's important. If we don't get that, already you're seeing little things from the press suggesting that they're not happy with how Maresca didn't use Felix more, didn't use these options more, and they won't take any accountability for the squad they've given Maresca. Let's keep things brutally honest. So this is the reality you find yourself in. So you have to play the long game. You have to play smart. You have to pick your battles and pick them wisely. So this is why Maresca will say things like, one moment Felix is part of my plans. The next moment, well, unfortunately, he didn't want to be here. And in the end, I can only use 11 players. And it was the best option for everyone that Felix was out. You're going to hear a lot of these contradictory type of annoying comments, which Maresca is forced to have to say. I completely understand that. When he's mentioning things like, how does he feel about how the January window went? He won't be honest and say, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated. Because I was telling you guys before the window even started, he wanted a striker. He wanted a midfield player. And he got like half a midfield player and some unknown wonder kids, and he got no striker whatsoever. So he's not pleased with what went down in the window, but he's not going to admit that. And that's why he's going to give non-answers like, listen, we planned for players that had a desire to leave, which, remember, literally 30 to 40% of the squad could have been out the door if the right offers and opportunities came through. How is that seriously helping the manager or helping our ambitions and targets this season? It's not, because it's not serious. And Maresca then ending things by saying in the end, what I have is what we need. Again, all non-answer type of stuff. So I think that's enough of the press conference. It was like the shortest press conference I think we've seen in many seasons. So now we can unpack and really discuss the predicted lineups. And I've got 3 to discuss. For the first lineup, as you guys can see, you're seeing Nkunku, false 9. Noni, Sancho, midfield of Dewsbury Hall, Palmer, Caicedo, and defence, I've gone for Gusto, Corwall, Jalibert, Achimpong, and Jorgensen. Now, let me explain the first lineup. False 9 and rotation, because we have the Prem game against Brighton, and we have to be serious for that because Premier League football is the most important thing for us this season. Now, in goal, Jorgensen will start in every lineup, cool. Defense, I've gone for Achimpong. I think Reece James, bring this guy back either as a sub in the game or bring him back for the Prem game against Brighton. So Achimpong, let's use this kid. He's shown some promise and he can fulfill that role out wide. I've gone for Jalibert, who didn't start against West Ham. I'd imagine because he's going to be playing against Brighton. And I've gone for Corwall again, just for left-footed balance in this first lineup. And I've gone for Gusto, just to give Cucurella a bit of a rest because, we can't be using our key guys week in, week out. And as I'm saying, I'm happy for him to come on as a sub in the second half because we have to be wise with the minutes we're giving out now. We have to think about the conditioning of the players too. This is why Dewsbury Hall is in this team, because if he's here, you simply have to use him. But to end with my full reasoning for the first lineup, false 9. The reason why I've gone for this team is that when you use a false 9, for God's sake, if they're going to be withdrawing from spaces, dropping deeper, it means that the support from players that have to make runs into those vacated spaces in behind, those diagonal runs, they come from the wide players. They can't come from the midfield. It can't be a situation when the midfield players are bombing forward. Like we're even more exposed to Brighton's counterattacks. And then we're out of positions. That can't be the case. If you're using a false 9, it means you have inside forwards cutting inside. And this allows Nkunku to play more ball to feet, which he should be doing. Ultimately, this would mean that Cole Palmer cannot be playing his normal 10 role he's been playing the last few games, where he has all the freedom to roam inside this like little corridor box in the middle of the pitch. No, 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 no. Tomorrow, if we do use this first lineup, Palmer links up with the fullback and he links up with Noni, and you have to diversify how you use him. And this is the ultimate way to use him if you're using Nkunku as your false nine and not a striker, which Nkunku isn't. For the second lineup, a few more tweaks, but with this lineup, it's more about having more of the stronger players back. And it's about maybe thinking about using the rotational guys as your subs in the second half instead. But the difference I've gone for is Cole Palmer at false nine. Now, I've gone for this because Cole Palmer has in fact played false nine under Maresca during the City Academy days. And Cole Palmer is not like a classic type of number 10. This guy is like I don't know the best way to describe him, but he's like a complete attacking package. He can play all across the lines, different positions. He can play in mids. He can play high up top, and he can play as a false nine. And I think we've seen a lot of like these transferable qualities where, you know, Palmer's benefited from the spaces Nico Jackson's made for him, which has allowed Palmer to get on the end of Nico's like 2 assists in the last few games and to be able to make those like, you know, withdrawal runs inside the box. I think Palmer could be an interesting solution there. Maybe he presses a bit better than Nkunku. And let's not forget, like, certain games last season, even this season, Palmer is very smart at blocking out passing lanes. And there's been a few times that he's, like, remember that game against Fulham last season where he blocked one out and helps us, you know, create a counter-attack, and we scored from that. Maybe you feel a bit more confident with Palmer's off-the-ball duties, false nine, compared to Nkunku, who, you know, hasn't really found his voice playing that role so far. So it's similar principles. Obviously, you'd have to use Noni and Sancho as the inside forwards. And if you're going to be using these like two creative guys essentially, then we have to use the experience at the back. So for this one, I've gone for Cucurella. I've gone for Chalobah, Tosin, Gusto and Jorgensen, giving Cole a rest, using some of the experience at the back, but going for more classical fullbacks who can hug the touchline and make overlaps, because if you're using a false nine, the threat comes from wide. It can't come from those central areas. So that's the second lineup out the way. And for the third lineup, this is a lineup I'd be very much open to wanting to see personally, and this is the return of a wing-back system. As you're seeing, Jorgensen in goal, the defense of Chalobah, Tosin, and at Chimpong. I've gone for Neto, wide left, wing-back on the left, Enzo Caicedo, Gusto, Sancho, Palmer, and Nkunku up front. Now, how I see it is that this is an asymmetrical style to use for the wing-back system. Neto is that asymmetrical left winger / wing back, and we've seen many wingers prosper, like Nuno Santos under Amorim at Sporting Lisbon, Ivan Perisic, recently and famously for Inzaghi at Inter Milan. And with this lineup, I've gone for this lineup because it's about building up more down the right-hand sides. Hence why you have your strong players. You've got your Gusto, who will be the wing back who's bombing up and down, creating that width, creating that balance. You've got Cole Palmer in that right channel, combining what we do down the right-hand side. You have a Chimpong who offers a lot of front-footedness on the ball, a lot of confidence, can get forward, can carry us up, and most importantly, can help us form those triangles out wide. Hence why Caicedo then finds himself on the right-hand side, marshalling himself there when your Chimpongs and Gustos do get forward. I like this lineup the most asymmetrically. And when you're focusing your build-up more down the right-hand side, moving those Brighton blocks, like creating gaps down the opposite side for the overloads. This is where Neto's pacing behind is going to be key to arrive in those vacated spaces to stretch Brighton even more. Because my thing is, we're not going to be scoring goals against Brighton from crosses inside the box, but we can score from the cutback cross. And ideally, I want to see those late movements and runs from Palmer's and Nkunku's and Co's who can take advantage of those, cutback crosses back inside. This is how I would see things. But to make it happen then, I'd want to see some experience there. I've gone for Cole out just so he can get a bit of a rest. He's had a bit of difficulties, even though it's been greatly exaggerated. But Chalobah and Tosin in this back three, I think that's okay. And again, Sancho, Palmer playing close to each other. They don't typically do that as much, having lots of spaces to roam between the lines as well. But most importantly, playing close to Cristo and Nkunku. If Nkunku is going to be playing up front now, You can't use him like Nico Jackson. He's not an out-and-out striker. If he's playing false nine, if he's playing as a second striker, get the best out of those second striker false nine qualities. So again, my preference would be the third lineup. I want to see wing-backs. We have enough in the squad to utilize that to the best of our abilities. So my friends, that's pretty much everything with my prediction. Very quick. This is a purely like fan hope coming from my mouth, but I'm going for a 2-1 win because, you know, we've had a lot of fun playing against Brighton. I think their defense has always been there for the taking. And I think transitionally, you know, we have enough quality to take advantage of a Brighton team who find themselves in pretty bad form themselves. And you beat them today, knowing that stronger players are coming back for the Prem game, then I think there's an opportunity to do something here. So my friends, that is the preview out of the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. What lineups do you agree with? And if you don't agree with them, what is your lineup for the game tomorrow? Catch you guys all then.